Dark energy is winning and no one can stop it. The universe is breaking its own rules. The universe is not silent, it is speaking. Every star, every atom, every breath of space whispers a truth that our minds struggle to comprehend. Creation is expanding faster than ever before. Galaxies are racing away from each other as if fleeing an unseen command. Light itself is losing the battle to keep up. Gravity, once the sovereign ruler of the cosmos, has been dethroned. And the one taking its place cannot be touched, measured, or fully understood. Scientists call it dark energy. But to those who listen beyond numbers and equations, it feels like something else, something spiritual. From the beginning, humanity believed the universe followed order. Gravity gathered the scattered, pulled chaos into form and gave birth to stars, planets, and life itself. Everything, down to the heartbeat, moved in harmony with laws written by the Creator's own hand. Yet now, those laws seem to be changing. What once held everything together is losing its strength. And the deeper we look into space, the more we realize the universe is no longer what we thought it was. When astronomers discovered that the expansion of the cosmos was accelerating, not slowing, they expected to find answers. Instead, they found a mystery that humbled them. The very fabric of reality is being pushed outward by something invisible, something that should not exist. Space itself is generating energy from nothing, a force that makes the universe stretch, grow, and pull apart. What if this isn't chaos? What if this is purpose disguised as mystery? Because every time God creates, He first separates. Light from darkness, water from land, life from lifelessness. Could it be that the universe is repeating the same divine pattern on a cosmic scale? That this expansion, this scattering, is not destruction, but preparation? What if the stretching of the heavens is simply creation's next chapter? A universe being refined, reborn, and renewed by the same hand that began it? In our own lives, the same invisible force often moves within us. The seasons when we feel distant from God, when gravity seems gone, when what once held us together begins to break, that's when something sacred is happening. It's the same pattern written across the stars. God expands what He loves. He pulls us beyond comfort, beyond comprehension, because the only way to grow into eternity is to stretch. Dark energy is not just a scientific discovery, it is a mirror. It reflects what happens when we step into faith without proof, when we trust in what cannot be seen. The Apostle Paul wrote, "What is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." The scientists may describe the acceleration of galaxies, but faith recognizes the rhythm of the divine, the pulse of a creator who moves in mystery, yet never without purpose. Perhaps the universe isn't breaking its own rules at all. Perhaps it's following the oldest rule of creation. Nothing stays the same. The galaxies, like our souls, are being called outward, into more space, more possibility, more understanding of what God truly is. And though that expansion feels like loss, though it looks like separation, in truth, it is only transformation. The same God who holds the stars in place also holds your story, and He will not let it collapse. So as the universe races outward, faster and faster, we must ask the question that echoes through both heaven and heart. What is God building beyond our sight? What purpose hides behind this acceleration of everything? What is He trying to teach creation? What is He trying to teach us? Maybe, just maybe, this invisible force is not winning against God's plan. It is God's plan, the unseen power that reminds us that even the darkness serves the light. Before we continue, take a deep breath and look around you. Everything you see, every beam of light, every shadow, every heartbeat, is part of a universe still being written. If this message stirs something in you, don't just watch the next revelation, walk through it with me. Subscribe not to a channel, but to a journey, where faith meets the infinite, and every mystery becomes a message from the Creator Himself. Because what's coming next doesn't just explain the universe, it reveals why you're in it. The discovery that shook heaven. In 1998, the heavens revealed something that shook both science and faith to their core. Two teams of astronomers studying the faint light of dying stars billions of light years away uncovered a truth so incomprehensible it changed everything we thought we knew about creation. Those stars, type Ia supernovae, the cosmic lighthouses that had guided astronomers for decades, were dimmer than expected. Their light had traveled across time to deliver one impossible message. The universe isn't slowing down. It's speeding up. Until that moment, scientists believed gravity was the dominant hand of God in the cosmos, the great gathering force that shaped everything, pulling stars and galaxies into order. Gravity was the language of divine architecture, the silent law that promised stability. But this discovery broke that certainty. The universe was expanding faster and faster, as though something unseen was pushing it outward, defying gravity, rewriting the laws of reality itself. They called it dark energy, not because they understood it, but because they didn't. It was invisible, immeasurable, yet undeniable. The name was a confession, a way to label ignorance without admitting defeat. Overnight, all of physics bent under the weight of a single question. What is driving creation apart? That question still echoes today, not just in laboratories but in hearts. Because the moment the universe's acceleration was discovered, a reflection appeared, a mirror held up to humanity. The cosmos was stretching, yes, but weren't we too? Weren't our souls like galaxies being pulled by invisible forces, between faith and doubt, between fear and trust, between the gravity of what we know and the expansion of what we must believe? It's as if God allowed the universe to perform the same mystery He performs in us. What science called acceleration, faith might call growth. Gravity represents what holds us, the familiar, the secure, the tangible. But dark energy, that's the unseen call of purpose. It's what pulls us beyond comfort, beyond understanding, toward the destiny that can't yet be seen. When those scientists published their results, it was more than a discovery. It was a divine sermon disguised as data. God was showing humanity, through creation itself, that even the most powerful laws of nature can bow before something greater, something unseen. That even the universe obeys a principle higher than reason: faith. Imagine that for a moment. Every galaxy, every star, every planet in motion, all expanding not randomly, but in rhythm with a plan we can't yet measure. The cosmos doesn't drift, it's guided. And if the universe itself can be driven by what is unseen, shouldn't we trust that the same unseen hand is guiding our lives too? This revelation humbled the proud and lifted the wondering. It reminded us that knowledge, no matter how vast, is never enough to contain mystery, because mystery is where faith begins. The astronomers looked up and saw what many believers already knew, that reality is held together not only by force, but by purpose. And maybe that's the lesson God allowed them to see, that what we call science is simply faith looking through a telescope. We measure the stars, but the stars measure us. We search for expansion, but God uses expansion to remind us that we were made to grow beyond our own understanding. This is why the discovery of dark energy wasn't just scientific, it was spiritual. It told us that the Creator's work is not finished. The same way galaxies continue to move beyond their original boundaries, your story continues to expand beyond the limits you once believed were final. God's plan, like the universe, is still accelerating, but this also raises a deeper, almost unsettling question. If the universe keeps expanding, if everything is moving farther apart, what happens to the balance that once held creation in harmony? If gravity once symbolized unity, what does it mean when unity begins to fade? That's the mystery we face next. The moment when creation began to let go, and the universe entered the age of separation. When gravity surrendered. For billions of years, gravity ruled the universe like an unchallenged king. It gathered dust into stars, stars into galaxies, and galaxies into clusters so vast that light itself bent under their weight. Gravity was the architect of creation, a force that pulled chaos into harmony, stitching together the cosmic fabric with invisible hands. Everything we see, from the glow of our sun to the swirl of distant galaxies, exists because gravity wove it into being. But then came the moment when that order began to falter. The same force that once drew everything closer could no longer hold it together. Across the universe, gravity began to lose the battle it had always won. The great web of galaxies, that shimmering network stretching across billions of light years, started to loosen its threads. And at the center of this quiet revolution was dark energy, the unseen power that pushes rather than pulls, expands rather than gathers. Imagine it, the very fabric of space beginning to stretch, like breath filling the lungs of creation. Every second, more space is born between galaxies, as though the universe is inhaling without ever exhaling. Gravity resists, fighting to pull everything back into balance, but it cannot win. Slowly, steadily, it surrenders. The cosmic order that once united everything begins to unravel into separation. And yet, even in that surrender, there is meaning, because what happens in the heavens mirrors what happens in the soul. Every human heart has its own gravity, the pull of what is safe, known, and comfortable. We cling to people, to plans, to control, believing that holding tighter will preserve what we love. But sometimes God allows that gravity to weaken. He loosens our grasp, not to destroy, but to prepare us for expansion. When gravity surrendered in the cosmos, it wasn't the end of creation, it was the beginning of transformation. In the same way, when life begins to pull apart, when what once held you no longer holds, it might not be a collapse, it might be a calling. God doesn't always strengthen what we cling to. Sometimes, He allows it to drift, so our hearts can discover what faith truly means, trusting even when what's familiar slips away. Dark energy and gravity are not enemies. They are opposites in balance, each revealing a divine truth. Gravity gathers, representing God's nurturing hand, the comfort of His presence, the stability of His word. But dark energy represents His command to go forth, to move, to stretch beyond what we understand. Creation needs both. Without gravity, there is no form. Without expansion, there is no growth. When you think about it, this pattern is everywhere. The child leaves home to become an adult. The seed breaks to become a tree. The soul lets go of control to find peace in surrender. The same rhythm that drives galaxies apart also drives transformation within us. Because what feels like loss is often just the space where God is creating something new. So when gravity surrendered in the universe, perhaps it was obeying a deeper law, a spiritual principle written before time began. To be transformed, you must let go. The galaxies that drift apart are not lost. They are simply fulfilling their design, continuing their journey through a greater, expanding creation. Maybe this is why God allows even His universe to change, because He never intended for creation to remain still. Motion is His language, transformation is His will. Everything that lives moves, and everything that moves eventually expands. So if your life feels like it's unraveling, if what once held you together now feels like it's slipping away, remember, gravity's surrender is not a sign of weakness. It's the moment before renewal. The same God who held you before will hold you again, just in a wider, greater way. The universe didn't collapse when gravity lost control, it evolved. And the same will happen with you. What you think is breaking might actually be unfolding. What seems to be pulling away might simply be making room for something divine. Because when gravity surrendered, the universe didn't end, it began to breathe. And in that breath, we begin to hear the next truth, the one hidden not in the stars that remain, but in the space between them. The part of creation that no telescope can see, but every soul can feel. The invisible architecture of the void. The hidden architecture of the void. When we look up at the night sky, what we see is only a fraction of what exists. Between every glowing star and radiant galaxy lies an immense ocean of darkness, vast regions that appear empty, silent, and lifeless. Yet modern astronomy has revealed a truth more astonishing than the light itself. The darkness is not empty. The void has structure. It is alive with invisible forces that shape everything we can see. Across billions of light years, Galaxies are not scattered randomly. They gather into immense filaments, cosmic rivers of light, separated by enormous gaps called voids. These voids stretch for hundreds of millions of light years, containing almost no matter at all. But paradoxically, they hold the secret to the universe's design. Because without the emptiness, there would be no form. The galaxies could not exist without the space between them. This invisible architecture of the void is one of God's quietest miracles. It teaches us something that science is only beginning to understand: that creation depends on contrast. Light needs darkness. Structure requires emptiness. Form demands space to breathe. In physics, this balance creates the cosmic web. In life, it creates purpose. So often we fear the void, in the heavens, in our hearts, in our faith. We call it loss, uncertainty, distance. We see the spaces where something once was and assume that God has left. But what if the void isn't a sign of his absence? What if it's the evidence of his design? What if the spaces you're walking through, the silence, the waiting, the unanswered prayers, are not the collapse of meaning, but the foundation of something yet to come? In the universe, the void is not chaos. It's order in disguise. Though it seems empty, it's filled with the very energy that holds galaxies in place. Invisible dark matter forms scaffolds that bind creation together, like the hidden bones of the cosmos. Without this unseen framework, stars could not orbit, planets could not form, and life could never exist. It's the same with us. God builds the most essential parts of our faith in places we cannot see. The void is where he does his finest work. It's where he forms conviction in the silence, courage in the waiting, strength in the unknown. Just as the cosmos expands into darkness, your soul expands through stillness. You cannot grow without space, and you cannot hear God's whisper if every corner of your life is filled with noise. We often ask God to fill the void, but sometimes his answer is to show us that the void is already full of his presence, his timing, his unseen hand. Just because we can't sense him doesn't mean he's gone. His greatest work often begins in the unseen. Remember the beginning. When the earth was formless and void, the Spirit of God hovered over the darkness. He didn't avoid it. He moved within it. Maybe the same is true for your life right now. The places that feel formless, where nothing seems to move, might be where God is building your next creation. The architecture of your future is being formed in silence. The space that feels empty is where his structure is being designed. The void is not a curse. It's an invitation to trust. And this pattern, this holy paradox of fullness and emptiness, exists on every level of creation. The atom itself is mostly empty space, yet within that space lies the energy that holds all matter together. The galaxies are surrounded by darkness, yet from that darkness comes the force that sustains them. Even the human heart feels the ache of emptiness, yet it's that very space that makes room for love, grace, and God's voice. What the cosmos reveals, faith confirms. The void is not the end of meaning, but the beginning of it. The distance between stars is the breath of God giving creation room to grow. The silence between your prayers is the breath of God preparing you to receive. So when you feel surrounded by darkness, remember, the universe is too. And yet, even in that darkness, it moves, expands, and thrives. The same power that fills the void between galaxies fills the void within you. You are held by an architecture you cannot see, designed by a God who never wastes space. And that brings us to the heart of the mystery itself. Because if even emptiness contains energy, if the void is full of invisible potential, then what exactly is that energy made of? How can nothing give birth to something? To find the answer, we must go deeper still, into the very physics of nothingness itself. The energy of nothing. If you could strip the universe of every star, every atom, every particle of dust, if you removed all the light, all the heat, all the sound, you might think you'd be left with nothing. But that's the first illusion of creation. Because even when everything seems gone, there is still something. The vacuum of space, the apparent emptiness between galaxies, is not truly empty. It hums with invisible activity. It vibrates with the potential of existence. Physicists call it vacuum energy, the restless heartbeat of creation itself. Quantum theory teaches us that even nothing cannot remain still. Particles flicker in and out of being, appearing and vanishing faster than thought, their presence momentary but real. This sea of invisible energy is everywhere, even in the tiniest point of space. It cannot be silenced, cannot be removed. It is the whisper of something eternal, an echo of the first word that spoke light into being. And this is where science once again meets faith. Because thousands of years before humanity could measure the energy of the vacuum, Scripture had already declared, "The earth was formless and void, and darkness covered the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God hovered over the waters." The divine Spirit moved over the emptiness, not because it was dead, but because it was alive with potential. In that nothingness, creation waited to awaken. The universe still moves by that same principle. The void between galaxies is not absence, it's power at rest. Dark energy, the mysterious force driving the cosmos apart, might be the very expression of that ancient truth. The energy of nothing is what sustains everything. Even emptiness is full of purpose. Even silence carries the sound of life waiting to emerge. There's a reason God so often works in silence, in hiddenness, in stillness. The same way the vacuum of space holds the invisible force that expands the universe, the quiet moments of your life hold the power that expands your faith. You may not see it, but it's there. The energy of unseen transformation. We often mistake nothing for the end of meaning. We say, "There's nothing left for me," or "nothing is happening." But the truth is, nothingness has always been the beginning of creation. God does his greatest work in places that appear empty. The tomb was empty, yet it held the power of resurrection. The cross seemed final, yet it became the beginning of redemption. The same pattern applies to the cosmos and to your soul. When you think there's nothing, that's where his power is waiting to move. Even science agrees, emptiness creates possibility. Every quantum fluctuation, every pulse of vacuum energy reminds us that creation does not need permission to begin again. The universe itself is a sermon on renewal. It expands not because it must, but because it can. That's how God designed it. Never static, always alive. The same principle flows through you. When God removes something from your life, when he strips away what once filled your space, he's not erasing your story. He's clearing room for expansion. So what is dark energy really? Maybe it's not just a physical force. Maybe it's the ongoing echo of creation's first command. Let there be. The universe obeyed then, and it still obeys now. Space continues to stretch because God never told it to stop. His word does not return void. It continues to work, to grow, to expand into eternity. And if the energy of nothing holds galaxies in motion, then what do you think the energy of faith can do within you? Faith is the spiritual version of that same law, believing in what cannot be seen, trusting that even when there seems to be nothing left, God is still moving. The truth is, every moment of your life contains invisible energy, not from science, but from spirit. The space between your thoughts, the pause between your prayers, the breath between your tears, it's all alive with divine potential. When you feel like you're floating in emptiness, you're actually surrounded by power waiting to unfold. Because what science calls dark energy, faith calls God still working. It's the energy that expands the universe, and the same energy that expands your soul. And yet, if this unseen power is real, if emptiness itself is full of energy, what happens when it begins to dominate creation? What happens when the balance between pulling together and letting go begins to shift? When expansion starts to win over gravity? To understand that, we must witness the moment when the universe began to change direction, when the great law of attraction gave way to a greater mystery of release. The battle between attraction and expansion. From the beginning, two invisible forces have written the story of creation. One draws together, the other pushes apart. Gravity and dark energy, attraction and expansion, forever locked in an elegant war that defines everything that exists. They are not enemies. They are the two hands of the Creator, shaping the universe through tension, balance, and design. Gravity is the force of unity. It gathers the scattered, pulls matter into stars, holds planets in orbit, and weaves galaxies into vast cosmic webs. It is the whisper that says, "Come together." It represents connection, stability, belonging. But dark energy is different. It moves in the opposite direction, outward into the unknown. It stretches, separates, and widens the fabric of space. Its voice says, "Go further." It is not destruction, it is invitation, the call to expansion. For billions of years, gravity ruled unchallenged. The universe grew, but it grew slowly, patiently, under gravity's watchful hand. Then, in a moment no eye could see, dark energy awakened. Its push began to overtake gravity's pull. Galaxies that once moved together started drifting apart faster and faster. The universe entered a new era, one where expansion began to win. That cosmic shift mirrors the spiritual life in stunning detail. Every soul feels the same battle, the pull toward what is safe and known, and the push toward what is uncertain but necessary. The pull of comfort and the push of calling, the pull of fear and the push of faith. These two forces live within you, contending for your future. One says, "Stay where you are." The other whispers, "Trust me. Step forward." And just like the universe, your life can't remain still. If gravity always won, nothing new would ever be born. But if expansion always dominated, everything would lose its center. True growth requires both, to be grounded and to be sent, to be held and to be released. When gravity surrendered, galaxies began to drift apart, but they didn't disappear. They evolved. They found new order within motion. And so it is with us. When God allows something to expand, a dream, a challenge, a distance you didn't choose, it's not to abandon you, but to reshape you. The space you feel is not empty. It's sacred. It's the room God makes for transformation. This is the rhythm of divine creation. Every relationship, every blessing, every moment of stability exists for a time under gravity, the comfort of being gathered. But then comes the moment of expansion, when God says, "It's time to grow." It's never comfortable. It stretches the heart, tests faith, and reveals trust. But this is how He builds strength, by teaching us to walk in the tension between what holds us and what calls us. Look at the universe itself. The galaxies still bound by gravity even as the space between them expands. That's how faith works. You can be held by God and stretched by Him at the same time. You can feel pulled in different directions and still be safe within His design. The tension isn't proof of conflict, it's proof of purpose. Every believer must face their own version of this cosmic balance. There are seasons when God gathers you, when He brings peace, clarity, and unity. Then there are seasons when He sends you, when He breaks the familiar, widens your path, and calls you to trust in what you cannot see. Gravity says, "Stay." Dark energy says, "Go." God says, "Follow me through both." And here lies a mystery deeper than science can explain. The balance between these forces is so precise that if dark energy were only slightly stronger, the universe would have torn itself apart before life could form. If gravity were slightly stronger, the cosmos would have collapsed under its own weight. Creation exists because the two are perfectly tuned, not by accident, but by intention. That balance is not random. It is written. It is sacred. Your life has the same fine-tuned balance. The tension you feel between waiting and moving, between holding on and letting go, is not failure. It's the proof that God is guiding you. Every expansion in your life has been calibrated to stretch you, not destroy you. Every season of release has been measured to bring you closer to your true design. The universe expands because God never stops creating. Your soul expands because He never stops transforming. The push and pull, the peace and pressure, the gravity and expansion, all of it works together to fulfill His will in you. So the next time life feels like it's pulling you apart, remember this. Even the galaxies are held together by invisible hands. What looks like separation might actually be alignment. What feels like breaking might be the precise tension that keeps you growing. The battle between attraction and expansion is not chaos. It's creation, and you are living proof of it. But if this balance holds the universe together, what happens when it starts to fail? What happens when expansion grows so strong that even light cannot bridge the distance? The answer lies beyond the visible horizon, in the silence of the fading universe. The cosmic horizon, when light gives up. Every second, the universe grows larger. The galaxies drift farther apart, their light stretching thinner as space itself expands. To us, they seem eternal, ancient fires burning in the deep. But every day, countless galaxies slip away beyond what we will ever see again. Their light still travels, but it will never reach us. The universe is expanding faster than light can cross it. It is as if creation itself is drawing a curtain over its own history. This boundary, this point of no return, is called the cosmic horizon. Beyond it lies a silence we can never touch. Galaxies vanish not because they cease to exist, but because their light can no longer find its way home. Even light, that ancient messenger of creation, eventually surrenders. There is something haunting about that thought. The first act of God's creation was light. "Let there be light," he said, and from that moment, illumination became the language of life, the proof of his presence. Yet now, billions of years later, light is being swallowed by distance. The cosmos is dimming, not in fire or violence, but in a slow, graceful fading. One by one, the stars step beyond the reach of our eyes, leaving us alone in a smaller island of visibility. And perhaps this too is a divine metaphor, because there are moments in life when light seems to fade, when faith, once radiant and sure, begins to dim under the pressure of time and distance, when prayers feel unanswered, when the presence of God feels far away, when you can't see the way forward, and all that's left is silence. But remember this: when light gives up, it doesn't die. It transforms. It stretches, it changes, it travels into realms unseen. The same is true for faith. When your certainty begins to fade, it may not be leaving you. It may simply be expanding beyond your sight. God often works in dimensions our understanding can't yet reach. The fading of light is not a failure of creation. It's a continuation of it. Even as galaxies drift beyond the cosmic horizon, they remain part of God's design. Their light may no longer reach us, but their existence still shapes the universe. In the same way, the prayers you thought were lost, the seasons of your life that seemed to disappear, are not gone. They've simply moved beyond your horizon. They still exist in God's hands, still influencing your story from beyond what you can perceive. We live within our own spiritual horizons. There are truths we can no longer see, memories we cannot revisit, futures we cannot yet imagine, but beyond every horizon, God remains. Just because something is out of view doesn't mean it's out of control. The galaxies beyond our reach still orbit under his authority. The same is true for your life. The things you've lost sight of, the dreams, the peace, the hope, are still held within his gravity. When we lose light, we learn dependence. We stop walking by sight and begin walking by trust. Faith becomes the telescope that looks beyond the visible, that sees through the darkness and says, "It's still there." Because even in silence, God speaks. Even in darkness, he shines. The absence of light is not the absence of his presence. It's the test of whether we'll still believe he's there when we can't see him. The cosmic horizon is a boundary not of loss, but of revelation. It reminds us that what is hidden from us is not hidden from God. The universe continues beyond what our eyes can grasp, just as your purpose continues beyond what your heart can comprehend. The galaxies that vanish are still part of the divine story. And the moments of your life that feel gone, that seem lost forever, are still part of your redemption. Maybe that's the quiet truth the cosmos is teaching. That sometimes light must stretch until it disappears to reveal the true size of faith. What you think is fading might only be unfolding in ways you can't yet see. So, yes, light gives up, but only from our perspective. In God's view, it keeps going. It never stops. It only moves beyond our reach so that we may learn to follow it not with our eyes but with our hearts. And that horizon, that limit where sight fails and faith begins, is not the end of the story. Because there is something that binds even what drifts apart, a thread that connects every corner of creation, from the smallest particle to the edge of eternity. It's invisible, yet unbreakable, and it may be the very secret that keeps the universe, and your soul, from ever truly falling apart. The quantum thread that binds all things. Even as galaxies drift apart and light fades beyond reach, the universe remains connected by something deeper, an invisible thread that binds what distance cannot divide. Science calls it quantum entanglement, but in truth, it is one of the most spiritual principles ever discovered. It suggests that two particles, once connected, remain linked forever, no matter how far they travel from each other. A change in one instantly affects the other, even across galaxies. It's as if the universe refuses to forget its own unity. As if, beneath all the separation and expansion, there still exists a divine memory, a sacred thread that holds everything together. This is not poetry, it's physics, but it's also revelation. Because the Bible has always told us what quantum theory is only beginning to confirm. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. That is not metaphor, it is law, a law written into the structure of reality. The same hand that stretched the heavens also wove connection into their very foundation. It means that even when everything appears to be falling apart, there is still something unseen keeping it whole. The quantum thread is the perfect mirror of faith. You can't see it, you can't measure it, but its effects are undeniable. It's the proof that connection doesn't depend on proximity, that love, once shared, doesn't disappear. In the physical world, that connection keeps the universe coherent. In the spiritual world, it keeps your soul anchored when everything else seems to drift away. Think about that. The same force that binds particles across infinite distance is the same truth that binds you to God. When you pray, when you worship, when you love, that connection travels beyond the limits of time and space. The Spirit of God moves instantly, not because it travels faster than light, but because it has no need to travel at all. You are never apart from Him.
Even when you feel galaxies away, the connection remains. This idea should change how we see everything, because it means separation is an illusion. The expansion of the universe may increase distance, but it cannot destroy relationship. Not between galaxies, not between souls, not between you and your Creator. Every atom that exists, every spark of energy, every human heart, all are part of one great web of being. The universe is not fragmented, it's woven.
We live in a world that worships distance. We measure ourselves by how far we've come, by how far we've fallen, by how much we've lost. But the cosmos reminds us that no matter the distance, the connection remains. When you think you've drifted too far, when you feel abandoned, when life feels empty and faith feels cold, you are still bound to the source. There is no such thing as too far for the one who holds everything in place. And that's why even the darkness cannot win, because connection is stronger than expansion. The more the universe stretches, the more the thread reveals its strength. The further the galaxies drift, the more clearly we see that the bond remains unbroken. Just like the love of God, infinite, invisible, immediate. What scientists call entanglement, faith calls relationship. You were never meant to live unconnected. The same power that holds the stars in their patterns also holds your soul in its purpose. The invisible thread of grace runs through everything, through every loss, every waiting, every silence. You are woven into something eternal. The universe expands, but it never breaks. The galaxies move apart, but they never fall out of the web. And you, no matter where you find yourself, no matter how far you think you've gone, are still held within that same design, if only we could see it. those countless shining threads running through everything, tying creation together in the mind of God. Maybe then we'd realize that the distances we fear most are illusions of perception. You are still connected to what you love, to what you've lost, and to the one who created you. Quantum physics calls it entanglement. Scripture calls it covenant. Creation calls it survival. But to the believer, it is grace. And if everything remains connected, if even the smallest particles remember their origin, then the universe itself must carry a memory, not only of what it was, but of who made it. There, hidden within the light and the dark, lies the next truth. The universe does not forget. It remembers everything it has ever been, and everything it has ever loved. The memory of the universe. Nothing in creation is truly lost. Not light, not sound, not life. Every moment that has ever existed leaves a trace, an echo in the vast structure of reality. Physicists call it the holographic principle, the idea that the entire universe may be a kind of cosmic memory where every event, every vibration, every heartbeat is recorded across the fabric of space and time. If you could read the patterns written into the void, you would find the story of everything that has ever been. The stars are not just lights in the sky, they are archives of time. Every photon that reaches your eyes tonight left its source millions or billions of years ago. When you look at a star, you are not seeing where it is. You are seeing where it was. The universe is a living memory, a divine journal written in the language of light. And if the cosmos remembers, what does that say about its creator? About us? The Bible tells us that not even a sparrow falls to the ground without God knowing it. If God keeps record of every atom in motion, then nothing in your life has been forgotten. The universe's memory is a reflection of His, vast, detailed, eternal. This is what the scientists call information, the one thing the universe never destroys. Even when stars die, even when matter falls into black holes, even when light fades beyond the cosmic horizon, the information of what existed remains imprinted somewhere, somehow. Stephen Hawking called this the conservation of information. Faith calls it the omniscience of God. The laws of physics and the word of Scripture agree on one astonishing truth. Nothing truly disappears. Your tears, your prayers, your moments of joy and failure, they all leave an imprint. You might forget, others might overlook, but the universe and the God who holds it remembers. Memory is not just a property of the mind, it is a property of creation. The same God who told Moses, "I have heard the cry of my people," still hears yours. Your voice, your faith, your hope, they travel farther than light itself. We fear being forgotten. But the cosmos teaches us that remembrance is woven into the very design of existence. The dust of dead stars became the soil of new worlds. The atoms in your body once belonged to ancient suns. You are literally made of memory, the universe's way of remembering itself through you. When you breathe, you take part in a story billions of years old. When you love, when you believe, when you endure, you add new pages to that story. And that's the mystery. The universe not only expands, it remembers as it expands. Every new horizon carries with it the traces of what came before. The same is true of you. You may move forward, but your past is never wasted. Every experience, even the painful ones, becomes part of who you are in the hands of God. The lessons that hurt the most are often the ones that define you most deeply. The universe doesn't erase its mistakes, it transforms them. Stars die to become elements that give life. Galaxies collide to create new beauty. Even black holes, once thought to consume everything, may actually store the memory of all they devour. If that's true in the cosmos, imagine what must be true in your soul. Nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. What you think has vanished may simply be waiting to return in a new form. God's memory is perfect. He remembers not to condemn, but to redeem. He sees not the failure, but the purpose hidden within it. Just as the universe preserves the imprint of every photon, God preserves the imprint of every choice, every act of faith, every moment of love, and he weaves them together into a purpose that transcends time itself. So the next time you look at the stars, remember, you are not gazing into the past. You are seeing God's memory in motion, a universe that refuses to forget, a creation that carries your story as part of its own. Because if the cosmos remembers everything it has ever been, then you, made in the image of its creator, are living proof that memory itself is divine. And yet, if everything the universe has ever known is being remembered, there must also be meaning in its expansion. What is all this remembrance for? Why does creation keep stretching forward, carrying its memories into eternity? To answer that, we must ask the most human question of all, the one that echoes through both science and faith. What is the purpose of expansion? The purpose of expansion. The universe expands. Galaxies rush away from one another in an endless surge of motion. And yet, the question that lingers beneath it all remains unanswered. Why? Why would creation stretch itself thinner with every passing second? Why would a universe, once united by gravity and light, continue to move apart? Science offers equations. Faith seeks meaning. Between them lies a truth neither can fully grasp, that expansion is not a symptom of decay, but a declaration of purpose. From the first instant of existence, expansion has been the language of divine creativity. When God said, "Let there be light," he wasn't just commanding illumination, he was commanding movement. Creation didn't unfold in silence, it exploded outward, filling emptiness with purpose. That same momentum has never stopped. Every galaxy racing away from its birthplace, every particle seeking space, continues that ancient breath of God, a universe still inhaling eternity. What if the expansion of the cosmos isn't about losing connection, but about making room for something greater? Just as your heart must stretch to love more deeply, creation must stretch to contain more of God's unfolding plan. Expansion is not separation, it's preparation. The universe widens not because it's breaking, but because it's growing into what it was always meant to be. And the same is true for you. Every time your world stretches beyond what you understand, every time life feels like it's moving too fast or slipping beyond your control, you are experiencing spiritual expansion. God is pulling your life outward, into faith's vastness, into trust, growth, and renewal. You were never meant to remain where you began. Just as the stars cannot stay bound, neither can your soul. Expansion hurts. It feels like distance, silence, loss. But even the pain of growth is holy. The child leaving home, the believer leaving comfort, the heart learning to forgive. The space between what you once were and what you are becoming. That's the stretch of divine purpose at work. You're not being pulled apart, you're being pulled forward. The universe's expansion is proof that God is still creating. Every second, new space comes into being, fresh, untouched, ready for life to emerge. You too are a continuous creation. The spirit that formed you once continues to shape you now. You are not finished. You are unfolding. But here's the mystery. Expansion is balanced by remembrance. As the cosmos stretches, it never forgets where it came from. Its structure, its laws, its order remain written into every particle. You too expand within the boundaries of grace. You move outward, but you are never lost. God doesn't let expansion become exile. He ensures that even when you feel far from where you began, His presence still fills the space between. Perhaps the universe expands to teach us that love cannot remain still. Love, by its nature, must grow, must reach, must create new space for others. The cosmos mirrors the heart of God, always giving, always widening, always making room for more light. The expansion of creation is the expansion of compassion, reflected on a universal scale. Every push of dark energy, every pulse of the void, every galaxy drifting away is part of the same spiritual truth. Growth is God's nature. Nothing He makes remains static. Stillness belongs to death. Movement belongs to life. So what is the purpose of expansion? It's the purpose of existence itself, to multiply the reach of divine presence, to fill the void with new possibility, to remind every created thing that it was born not to remain, but to become. The universe expands because love demands more room. Faith deepens because understanding demands more depth. Souls stretch because eternity demands more capacity. And so, the next time life pushes you beyond what feels comfortable, remember this. You are living in the same rhythm as the stars. The same energy that moves galaxies moves within you. You are not being undone. You are being remade to hold more of God's light. But even expansion has an end, or at least a transformation. There comes a moment when all creation must face what lies beyond growth itself. What happens when the universe has stretched as far as it can? When every star burns out and every horizon fades? Is that the end, or the beginning again? The end of everything, and the beginning again. Everything that has a beginning must also have an ending. Stars are born in clouds of light, live their fiery lives, and then fade into the dark. Galaxies spin for billions of years before their energy runs out. Even the universe itself, vast beyond imagination, is moving toward an inevitable stillness. This is what scientists call the heat death of the universe, or the Big Freeze. A time when expansion will have stretched everything so far apart that even light will no longer travel between stars. Every fire will go out, every sound will fade, the cosmos will fall silent. It sounds like tragedy, the ultimate defeat of creation. Yet, to those who see with eyes of faith, it's not destruction. It's completion. Because the same God who spoke light into being will not allow his masterpiece to end in darkness. The end of everything is not the erasure of meaning, it's the fulfillment of purpose. Imagine it. The last stars flickering like candles in the void. The galaxies growing cold and faint. The final heartbeat of time slowing into eternity. And in that silence, God remains. He does not end when his creation rests. He waits, as he always has in stillness, ready to speak again. Science can measure decay, but it cannot measure resurrection. It can predict the cooling of the cosmos, but not the renewal that comes after. The Bible says that he will make all things new. Perhaps the universe itself is part of that promise, a cycle of death and rebirth written into its very design. Because just as the stars must die for new ones to form, the universe itself may one day collapse, ignite, and rise again, reborn, renewed, redeemed. We see the same pattern in life. Endings frighten us because they look like loss. But in truth, every ending in God's plan is a preparation for something greater. Every failure, every goodbye, every silence, all of it carries the seed of rebirth. The sun sets not to punish the day, but to prepare the dawn. If you've ever stood in a moment that felt like the end, when your plans fell apart, when your strength failed, when your faith dimmed, you've glimpsed your own version of the cosmic horizon. But what if God allows those endings not to destroy you, but to remind you that you were never meant to be sustained by your own light? What if the fading of what you built is the invitation to witness what He is building next? Because every universe, every life, has two stories, one of creation and one of recreation. The first begins with light. The second begins with trust. The moment you believe that even the end has meaning, you step into the second story, the one God writes with eternity in mind. Maybe the universe expands until it breaks, not because it's dying, but because it's making room for the next creation. Maybe this cycle of birth, growth, fading, and renewal is the divine heartbeat of existence. What looks like the death of everything might simply be the pause between breaths, the silence between "let there be" and "behold, I make all things new." In the end, perhaps dark energy, the very force that drives the universe apart, will also become the catalyst that draws it back together. The same way God allows us to wander only to lead us home. Separation gives way to reunion. Silence gives way to song. Death gives way to life. So when the last light fades and time itself runs out, do not fear. Because what the universe teaches us, what Scripture confirms, is this: God never ends a story with emptiness. He always ends with resurrection. The expansion will cease, the stars will rest, and from that sacred stillness something greater will emerge, a new heaven, a new earth, a new creation beyond what even angels can imagine. The end of everything is not the loss of meaning, it's the return to the source. The moment when all creation exhales its final breath and God inhales it back into himself, only to breathe it out again as eternity renewed. You were born in that same rhythm. You live, you grow, you let go, and then you begin again. The end is never the end. It is the turning of the page in a book that never closes. And perhaps, when the last light goes out and all becomes still, the first sound we will hear will be the same as it was in the beginning, the voice of God saying once more, "Let there be," when the silence speaks. The story of the universe does not end with the fading of light. It ends, or perhaps begins again, with a whisper. A silence so vast that even time must bow before it. And in that silence, we hear the voice that started it all. Not the thunder of creation, not the roar of stars, but the calm, steady breath of God saying, "It is fulfilled." We have followed this story from the birth of the cosmos to its distant future, through gravity's hold, through expansion's reach, through the mystery of dark energy itself. We've seen galaxies drift apart, stars burn out, and light stretch until it disappears. And yet, through it all, one truth has remained unbroken. Nothing in creation is ever truly lost. Every particle, every prayer, every act of faith, all of it returns to the source from which it came. The universe is not dying, it is transforming. What we call endings, God calls preparation. What we call darkness, he calls creation's next dawn. Even now, as the galaxies flee and the stars fade, his design moves forward, expanding, breathing, unfolding in ways we can't yet imagine. Because creation was never meant to be contained, it was meant to reveal the infinite. Dark energy, this invisible force that drives the universe apart, is not chaos. It is divine persistence. It is God's reminder that his word, spoken once at the dawn of time, still echoes through eternity. The same command that created the stars still shapes their motion today. His "let there be" is not a past event. It is a continuing declaration. Creation never stopped because the Creator never stopped speaking. Look around you. Every sunrise, every heartbeat, every moment of hope. These are fragments of that same energy, glimpses of a power that expands through both cosmos and soul. You are part of that movement. You were made not to collapse into fear, but to expand into faith. Every struggle, every waiting season, every unanswered question is your personal expansion, the stretching of your spirit toward eternity. And so, when you stand beneath the stars, don't just see distance, see destiny. See a God who still paints galaxies with purpose, who still moves mountains of space with a whisper, who still expands hearts the way he expands the heavens, gently, endlessly, beautifully. The scientists call it acceleration. Faith calls it revelation. The universe is not running away from God. It is running toward its completion, a moment when everything scattered will be gathered, everything unseen will be revealed, and everything lost will be found again in his light. There will come a day when the stars grow silent and time itself exhales its final breath. But in that sacred stillness, something greater will awaken, a new creation, born not from dust or fire, but from divine memory and unending grace. A universe remade not by expansion or collapse, but by reunion, the return of all things to the heart of God. So do not fear the silence. It is not emptiness, it is expectation. The same silence that preceded the first "let there be" will precede the next. Because God's story does not end in darkness. It ends in renewal. And until that day, we remain here, breathing, believing, expanding, carried by the same unseen force that holds galaxies in their paths. A force greater than gravity, greater than time, greater than anything we can name. We call it faith. God calls it love. The stars may fade, but their light was never wasted. The universe may stretch, but it will never break. And you, child of the same Creator who commands both atoms and angels, you will never be forgotten. For as long as the cosmos expands, so does His plan for you. Stay curious, stay awake, because the story of creation is not finished. It's only moving closer to the day when eternity begins again.